to the Quiet Warrior Show, where we help top leaders find their pathway to incredible success and a lifetime of happiness. Here is your host, Tom Dutta, the Quiet Warrior.
Well, welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show. My name is Tom Dutta. I am the Quiet Warrior. I'm excited to be here today at the BM Group of Companies with Mr. Balraj Mann. Hey, Balraj, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tom. Glad to be here.
It's great to be here. I've been excited about doing this with you. I've known you for a while, and I'm impressed with the work that you've done building your companies. But you know what? We're not in my studio. We're sitting actually in Balraj, your office, and it feels like just being at home and having a cup of coffee. So why don't we turn it to you? The show's about you, Balraj. Tell us a bit about yourself.
My name is Balraj Mann, originally from Punjab, India. I made Canada, British Columbia my home about 38 years ago. I live in Langley, suburbs of Vancouver, BC, with my wife, Jasbir, and my three kids.
Oh, that's awesome. And from what I know about you, you're a family man. And Balraj, my show, I say this to you before we started, that it's not about an ego. It's about coming on, being authentic, being humble. You're a top leader. But I want to brag about you. I want to build you up a little bit so the audience understands what's behind the man, Balraj. So you not only are you the chairman of the BM Group, but you made the journey from India all the way here and started that, which is a story in itself. The company itself has 12 companies. You have a premium brand that you've built. So it really is a diverse portfolio of construction companies that you've brought together, real estate, and it's considered a large business. So it's pretty amazing. Your footprint for your business is the Western USA and the Canadian provinces, and even internationally, which is interesting. And you've celebrated recently a 40th anniversary, so things are really on the move. What I also noted, and I'm impressed with your commitment to the community, you sit on several boards, notably the board of the Surrey Board of Trade, Kwantlen Polytechnic University, so you're a man who values education, and Langley Memorial Hospital, where I know you've done something big there in the last year, and you might tell us about that. Most importantly, what we see is companies like this, they grow, and sometimes the culture changes, but you've managed to create something special here. You call that the family culture, with 2 or 3 generations of employees. I mean, it just blows my mind that you have that going on. And so let's go back to the beginnings. Tell us your story. Take us back to where it all began.
Yeah, it all started in 1980, where my parents and 2 of my sisters and myself, we emigrated to Canada, and I was 15 years old. And like any other immigrant family, we did whatever we could to survive, working in the farms, doing labor and whatever, putting myself through high school and then post-secondary. And from then on, got a job as a materials consultant for engineering company. And after a few years, I sort of kept progressing in the company, and the opportunity came. Then I bought my first partnership in engineering company. Then I started a development business, and then acquired some other companies, and they said one thing led to the other, and here we are, right? So 38 years later in Canada, right?
Well, my gosh, I mean, you mentioned the age of 15, and so I want to drill back down on that. I mean, a lot of immigrants have difficulty coming to a new country, and many immigrants, I mean, I have a South Asian background myself, they don't always integrate easy into the new culture. But you did something special, and I know a little bit about your story, but go back to 15 years old. What was it like to be a kid coming here? You know, you were back in India. Tell me a little bit about the challenges of coming here and what you brought with you. Your father's story is part of that too, right?
Yes, I think growing up on a farm, I come from a farming background back in India. And my father was not educated, but he has strong values about family, how he treated his colleagues and his workers in the farm. So I grew up in that environment of cattle and crops and tractors and whatnot, right? So, and one thing I sort of valued then and more value now, how he treated his people. And even when he retired, went back and helped some of his old former employees and their kids in whether it was daughters getting married or some other things with the education and stuff like that. So I think that was in me, and how to sort of treat other people. And when I started my career working for a multinational company, and there was lots of opportunity to learn different things. But one thing was sort of lacking, missing, that the human element of how people should be treated was, I thought, could be done a little better.
Yeah.
How my father, as a small farmer, did treated his people, right? So that's what I try to implement in my sort of, when I became a manager in the same company, or I bought other companies, right? So bringing that sort of value system in our corporate culture.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so we heard about your father. I mean, your dad obviously was a great man, and this family culture that he taught you. You know, for a lot of leaders, we hear it's hard to create a family culture within a large company. So let's go forward and tell me a bit more about when you got to this country. You became a consultant and you became an engineer, and then you started buying or acquiring and building this group of companies. What were some of the challenges along the way of doing that? Because you're bringing diverse companies with different people together. What are some of the things you did that got us to a family culture?
I think, I mean, challenges now I look back is because I wish I had started a bit earlier. Some of the challenges are just getting over your own phobia. You think, am I good enough to do that? I was kind of a timid person growing up here in the Western world, and because one thing was, I sort of maybe had this complex that my language skills weren't there. I didn't have the financial background that the other kids in the school had, but I had the intellect and sort of hardworking, sort of in my genes, those skills and dedication to my job and to my employers. I think that helped me with the opportunity. Whether people who were my employers, they saw that I was dedicated, hardworking. I wasn't asking for much. But so some of the challenges were just getting over that. It took a while for some people to recognize my skills, but once it was there, then they sort of gave me opportunity, and I excelled, and then more opportunity came my way. Also, the other thing that challenges is sometimes you go overly bold, and you make decisions, and the economic cycles are not always at sort of same pace. Sometimes you have good years and bad years, especially in real estate and construction. So you have to plan for that. There's the financial challenges. There's also HR challenges. So I think we've been lucky that on the HR side of things, we are very transparent, and we've kept most of our staff. Even in the transition, we seldom lose staff because of any issues with the HR related, or people are not don't like our corporate culture. I think that we've been lucky that way, right? And overall, I would say it's all been good, right? So other than minor setbacks of different economic cycles and whatever, right?
Yeah, no, it's very interesting about the culture. So on the people side, I've heard that there's something you do every year, and you know many companies don't always take the time to do it. But there's this big barbecue I heard, and apparently it is the talk of the town, and all the kids and people come. You know, this is a lot about you, I believe, in the culture. But tell us about that. What do you do with
I
that?
think this is something that my wife and I sort of we take pride in, and she started by first company we sort of acquired, and she brought the food in and just breaking bread together, right? So, and then now we've built our house on a farm, and every year she cooks, or we have people come over, or she helps out, and the other staff helps, and it's become a kind of a tradition for us to get everybody, all the employees and their kids together. It becomes a kind of a fair of different events, the kids games and food and all that kind of stuff. And we bring people from here, and some of the even the US operation, they drive and make a sort of a trip out of it, right? So it's been growing. Every year we grow.
No, that's pretty amazing. I mean, I have to say that I've walked through the trenches in your company and met some people. And, you know, when you go into a company and people talk not just about the business, but they talk about this barbecue and they talk about that, you really are doing something great there. I want to talk about the companies in themselves. And this isn't a sales pitch for your companies, but it's interesting how in business, they use the words vertically integrated. So you have this strategy of acquiring companies, but you've put together a suite of companies. Tell us a bit about just what those companies do, and why should people care about the BM Group?
I think we if our portfolio, if you look at it's all my construction background is my background is materials engineering and construction management. So that's what my consulting career revolved around those kind of skills, right? And my first sort of acquisition was an engineering testing company, then real estate development. Then we bought a restoration company, and we bought a selective demolition scanning company, concrete supply company, and so on. And then opportunities came within our sort of a network of clients or suppliers as they saw us succeed in our first acquisitions. They said, you know what, we are looking at retiring. Why don't you take over my staff and my business? So as a respect to our founders, and we thought we keep their legacy going and their staff, and we grow our group under this one umbrella, BM Group, that BMG. We are sort of branding now, but we're keeping each company culture intact. And most of our founders are involved in our business to whatever level they want. They feel comfortable, they are available. I think that strategy is working for us and employees. And when we do events like barbecue and Christmas parties, everybody walks away with a gift. They all get Christmas cards. We sort of share in the profits, and they all feel good as a part of a not as a global company, we're part of a bigger family. And we have every year we make a collage of our employees' kids, and you can see how the kids are growing now. The people who used to be really young in the kindergarten age now have grown up, and they're ready to work in for us or elsewhere, right?
Yeah, there's a big thread through what you're saying about heart, and people know from my book and some of the work I do in coaching, I use a scientific personality assessment. So I'm going to call you Mr. Blue. I mean, your motive is intimacy. It's building deep relations with people. And I think somebody like you in leadership of the BM Group, the customers, the people on the street, it's a blessing because you can get to know those people, build trust, have them come into your company. So tell us in a minute or two, why is BM Group different? What do they get here that they maybe won't get somewhere else if they're looking for your services?
I think what we will get, what I can guarantee is the respect, because I'm coming from India, visible minority, my English not being great. I think Canada, North America in general has been very generous and open to me, and I try my best to make the best out of the opportunity for myself, also for the people around me. I want to make sure that people are given the opportunity, and whether my staff, and if there's opportunity within the company, I want to make sure that they have that opportunity given to them. If they're missing or lacking some skills, I pay for their education, their training, so they advance within our company, so we can stay at par or ahead of our industry and whatever. So I think everybody deserves to work at their full potential in this life, and I want to do my part, whether it's education or other avenues, right? So I think this is what we are trying to do.
No, that's great, Balraj. There's a couple of things I thought about. You sent me on a journey in my mind in a few directions. One is about employee engagement. It's a term that they use in business today. How engaged are your employees? How happy are they? How much are they doing their jobs, achieving your goals? And so a lot of what you've been telling us is your personal, stamp on the culture of the company. Well, I find what's interesting about you is you hold the title of chairman of the companies. And usually if you look at a large company, this is a large company, privately owned, the chairman is somebody off in a corner office who nobody ever sees. But you do something very different. I've learned that, you do a lot more. So just take us in the life for a minute. How do you, with 12 companies, North America footprint, leaders in different places, how do you stay visible and engage with the workforce?
I think now one thing is I sort of learned myself not to micromanage too much. My general managers, they're doing a great job, right? And then they have their own teams of people, and I sort of work with them, and I try to get around at least whenever I have opportunity, whether it's U.S. offices or construction projects here, and meet the people, and especially on the events like barbecue and Christmas parties and other employee training events, I make sure that I'm there and meet the people, get to know them personally. And as we are growing, it's becoming less and less because there's more people to do. But I want to sort of, as I sort of step back more into that role, I want to do more of that. So get to know on a personal level or my members of my family, which I think they are.
Yeah. Yeah, they say as a company grows, there's a point in time where you reach that critical mass where as chairman, you can't be everywhere. And some leaders start developing their people to be stronger leaders, taking that responsibility. And I think you're on your way there in a great way. One of the things that you mentioned is that sometimes coming from India and having done all these great things, you kind of pinch yourself. I call that imposter syndrome. It's actually true that there's a syndrome that many leaders have. And it's something that comes from when we're little boys, and we wake up and all little boys sometimes say, can I really do this? And so here you are and you're really doing it. We're so proud of that work you're doing. But I want to ask you, what's your biggest failure? What was your biggest failure? What did you do and learn from that?
I think the biggest failure, I said, I don't call it a failure. Some of I think in my sort of pursuit of business success and whatever on the personal level, sometime on your, whether it's family or your friends or whatever, you outgrow some relationship in this big sort of vision of expanding and make sure you go after what you really want. I think those are sort of relationship that sort of fade away. I sort of regret that sometimes that's happened, primarily because you get busy and you don't pay attention. At least you become more engaged in your business life. That's where you get the thrill and excitement and enjoyment out of doing the next deal, talking to clients, talking to your business colleagues and whatever. But there's 7 of us in our family, right? So 5 sisters and 2 brothers, and I'm the youngest. So there's a big age spread, and they spread all over from UK to California to Toronto here. So this is one thing I regret, that I don't, I've sort of lost that closeness with my siblings, and because I've been so busy with the work and whatever.
No, I totally understand. And for the audience listening, here you're listening to a top leader who's being authentic. He's being vulnerable and telling you that, business and family, there is a connection. Many top leaders that I've coached or I know, Balraj, including myself in my early career, they orphan their families, or the business becomes a priority. And then later, issues that are happening outside the office manifest themselves in their leadership. They show up with these challenges that really relate to what's happening outside of work. So you seem to have things put together, and you really have a focus on that. I want to ask you one last question before we move to wrapping up with you, and that is, it's an interesting one for me. It's about culture and family. So I have some experience in the South Asian community, as I mentioned. It's part of my roots. And there are some people who come from the home country, India, and they come here and they feel that the belief systems and the things that they bring from India, that they live their life here the same way. They have children, and so they raise their children very traditionally. Whereas you've got 3 wonderful children. I met your family, and they're very successful. They're doing a lot of great things. How do you parent and raise your family in another country, in Canada, when you come from a traditional country like India? What are some of your secrets?
I think for us is, I would say the credit goes to my wife, and I spent a lot of time at work, and she sort of held the family and raising the kids kind of part of the responsibility. And she came from India when she was young, but she grew up in a small town called Golden, British Columbia, in the mountains. I know. So I think we spent a lot of time with our kids, right, growing up with the sports and whatever. We stayed engaged. We whatever we we're doing as a business at a young age, we're setting goals and and make sure that they had a plan in life. Those kind of things, I think, has helped us raise our kids well, and spending time with them, right? And whatever time we had available, we sort of sacrifice on some of the personal pleasures and whatever. We got married at a young age, but we had kids at a young age. But our kids were our sort of life other than the working at work, right? So I think that sort of has paid off for us.
No, that's wonderful, and I think we're learning a lot from you. It's a great lesson in leadership, what you said, and I seem to realize from just knowing your children and you for some time now that you let them make their own choices, and that's very different than some parents who are traditional. The children don't have those choices. We might do another show with you because I'm fascinated by the fact that you have, one of your children at least involved in the family business. And as you probably know, there's many family businesses where that doesn't always work. It's dad's dream and, and maybe wants the son or daughter to take over the dream. So you're doing some interesting things there to involve your children in the legacy of the companies. I'd like to come back again and talk to you about that. But what I want to do now is I want to honor you, Balraj, with 4 words. I've written these down. They're not scripted. I do this in every show as you're talking. You've probably seen me because I'm sitting in your office writing here. So these are 4 leadership words. The first one is humility. You're a man of humility, a chairman who has done a great job, but you're just an average guy, and it's not about ego. I love that about you. Number 2 is hard work. You bring an ethic with you, and it's reflective in the work that you do in the company. And you're a leader. I mean, if there's a picture in the dictionary and under the word leader, I would see your face there because you roll up your sleeves, you get out into the company, and you work with the people, which is awesome. And then I also find that you have this world view. So I don't know if you know this because you're very humble, but when you speak, you bring a world view from business you've done and living in India and business in the United States. And you have this perspective that many leaders who run local companies or who are born and raised in their home country, they maybe don't have. So I think a lot of people could benefit from being around somebody like you, Balraj Mann. So let's move to wrap up here and give you the last word. Tell us how people can connect to you or your body of work, your companies. You might have a website or you might have something.
Yeah, well, thank you, Tom, for the opportunity to speak to you today. Yes, our company website is www.bmgroupinternational.com. My name is Balraj Mann, Balraj, and my personal cell phone is 778-241-9129. Same cell phone for years, and very open door kind of a person in the office. So if somebody feels like that, I can help them out in any which way, especially young people if they need mentorship or just need help with some of the things that we've accomplished and they need to know how to get started. Whatever, I'm more than happy to share my experience or help with in any which way I can.
Well, there you have it, everybody. I mean, I'm going to recommend that you find this show on iTunes. Give it a rating so that we can support Balraj and his story. Everybody, if you want to be part of a great culture, join a culture that's a family culture, a company on the move. BM Group is the place to be. If you're on the street looking for services that are integrated in the area of construction and real estate, check these guys out because they're doing some great things. And finally, live life with that purpose. Find your true passion like Balraj has and live the life that you deserve and desire.
Thank you for listening to The Quiet Warrior Show. Create is a motive-based leadership development firm. www.kreat.ca